Hello everyone. I hope you're doing well. Welcome to another live stream. Let me know. I was messing around with some audio, always something that you should do. Oh man, actually, yeah. Let me know if you're watching how this sounds cuz I think my noise gate is pretty aggressive. I set my noise gate up. This was very stupid to do like right before a live stream. Um, but I was thinking about it and I'm recording a lot today because I'm going on vacation tomorrow. So let's see. Yeah, it's like super aggressive. Okay. So I'm going to make an adjustment here. Always good. This is good live stream content. So I'm going to make an adjustment here really quick. Let's see. I'm going to reduce the attack. No, increase the attack and lower the threshold and the range. Test check 1 2. Test check 1 2. Yeah, so I think that's good. I want it to filter out breaths, but I don't, and like mouth sounds, which I find myself editing out a lot lately. Um, and like why, right? Because I should be able to just like do this with my equipment. So, anyway, let me know in the comments if you are watching how this sounds. Seems like it's pretty. Like if the attack, so if the attack is super low, um, then that's like the amount of time it takes for it to kick in, I think. But it might be, I might have, maybe I mixed up what the attack does because this seems to, I have like a little graph on my Rodecaster Pro showing me like when the noise gate kicks in, and it seems to be okay now. And in my monitors, it sounds okay, but if you're watching and something sounds weird and choppy, let me know and I will make the adjustment. Also, I noticed that I'm not streaming to X anymore because I don't have a premium account. I have a basic account. And so I guess I can't stream to X anymore. Um oh well, I guess. Such is life. So let's see. I'm going to double check here on LinkedIn and make sure everything's good. Yeah, that. Yeah, it sounds pretty good. That sounds pretty good. Um, okay, good. So I am on Twitch, YouTube, and LinkedIn. Okay, so today what I'm gonna do, I'm woefully let me tell you, my friends, I have been recording all morning slash afternoon because I'm going on vacation on Saturday, and so I want to make sure I get a bunch of content in the tank, like a couple weeks worth, since I'm doing podcast workflows twice a week now, and one of those is like a news based show, so I had to come up with something different for that. But I also want to get this live stream out. I'm experimenting with a way to put these live streams in a podcast feed using rss.com. And ultimately, what I think I could do to improve my workflow, because rss.com uses the live item tag now, is like not even need to upload this audio later. I just haven't. I want to do that for a video for rss.com, and so I haven't done it for myself yet. But that's neither here nor there. Where is? Here we go. I'm working on. I'll share my screen now. Lovely. Okay, so this is obviously not done. But I am working on. I love the YouTube channel Alt Shift X. I think it's excellent. The guy who runs it is super smart, and he does like deep dives into um YouTube content. I'm sorry, Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon. And I just love the way he runs his live streams. Like it seems like he has all of these resources up, and like he's not, you don't see him, you never see him in the videos. Um so it's probably like a little bit easier for him to like not have to make eye contact and just kind of like read and look for stuff, but I loved that idea. So I started using a whiteboard in Canva to pull in some of my graphics and other slides and stuff so that I can reference them during the live stream. So we'll see how that goes today, too. If you are just joining, hello and welcome. Thanks so much. I see some people trickling in. Let me know where you're coming from. This is, I'm going to be talking all about automations and how you can start automating. And then if there's time, I will maybe build out an automation so you can see how it works. But if you are just joining us, let me know who you are, where you're coming from, if you have any questions. And since you missed my preamble, I stupidly messed with my noise gate before, right before this live stream went on. And so if I'm like cutting out or my audio is choppy or anything, definitely let me know so that I can fix that. Also, because LinkedIn does not work with what am I doing? Because LinkedIn does not work with Ecamm Live, I also need to go to LinkedIn and log in and keep an eye on the comments there. So if you're watching on LinkedIn and I don't answer or address immediately, it's nothing against you. It is that LinkedIn doesn't send comments to Ecamm Live. So, okay, with that, let's look at some automation stuff. Okay. What is this? How do? Why did that happen? Oh, now you can see it. This is I'm editing a video. Oh yeah, there we are. Okay, great. So, okay, first of all, I'm gonna go through some of these things. But when you're so I have a lot of content on this already, and if you're on my newsletter, which you can go to at podcastworkflows.com/join, I talked a lot about it in this week's newsletter and the articles I'm doing. Well, it looks like the the live stream is gone from LinkedIn. Did I lose internet? Am I still here? Am I dead? No, okay, I'm good. Okay. Um. Anyway, so I talked a lot about this in general. I've talked about my. I think I've shown this before, but the automate per task framework, where it's like you perform the task, you evaluate the task, and then if it makes sense, you remove the task, and you do that for every task in your workflow. But you know, sometimes it feels like, you know, in one of my articles, I say, like, imagine you're told you have to get to your wedding and that's it. Like, you're not told where the wedding is or what time it's at, uh, or anything, like any other details. You're just told you have to get to your wedding. That's kind of what it feels like when someone says you need to automate, right? Or you need to do anything that like requires skill. There's a ton more there's like a lot more stuff that you need to know before you actually start automating. And so I had a coaching call with someone yesterday, like a discovery call with them, and you know, they were telling me like how overwhelmed they were feeling because they know that there's places in their process they can automate, but they're not sure like what those processes are. And I said at one point, I'm like, just look for low hanging fruit. And I'm like, if you don't know what low hanging fruit looks like how could you determine that? And so I recognize that there is a lot of stuff around automation that can be confusing. And so I want to try to tackle a lot of that in today's live stream. Something I'm toying around with as well, and you'll have to tell me if you like this idea, is I want to create a course on automation for podcasters. So I basically teach you everything I know about podcasting. I'll float this to my newsletter too. But it's something that I've been thinking a lot about because that's a hard and confusing place to start is is with automation. So anyway, okay, let's get to the actual stuff here. So first of all, there are 4 questions I usually tell people to ask themselves when they're walking through their process, which is make a list of everything you do. Ask, do I personally need to do this? Ask, does a person need to do this? And then see if automation tools can do it. And this is nice and high level and everything. And you can definitely make a list of everything you do. And you can ask, do I personally need to do it? Because the answer in most cases is going to be no. You don't need to do most of the stuff that you do. It's only like the things that you're especially skilled at, or your opinion, your voice, your insight, especially when it comes to podcasting. And so like it's good for you to offload a lot of that stuff. But then when you get to, does a person need to do this? That's where like big question marks happen. Like, how do I know if a person or a robot can do this? And the answer there really lies in the inputs and the outputs. So in the automate per task, when I have you evaluate, I tell you to determine, are the inputs clear and are the outputs clear? Because if the inputs and the outputs are clear, then there is a better chance that you'll be able to automate it. The main key to automation when you're automating processes like this with a tool like Zapier or Make is there needs to be some event that kicks off that automation, and then a very repeatable set of tasks need to happen. So one example of this is, and I'll bring it up here and we can do a little show and tell. Maybe. Let's see. Bring up the sidebar here. No, do you not want to do this for me right now? I know you can't see it, but I can see it. I think so. Okay. This is going to be like in the back of my mind a little bit, but it does sound like the noise gate is mostly good. And I'm hearing like some dropout at some points. So it's probably still a little bit too aggressive. But not so aggressive that I can change what I'm doing for the live stream. When I'm recording a podcast, it's definitely going to be too aggressive because like once it's gone, right? Like once the audio is gone, it's gone. But anyway, let's look at a really simple automation. Yeah, it just dropped out there, right? Let's look at a really simple automation. I think I probably want to adjust the attack and the release. Can I like just set this back to whatever the defaults were? Can I do that? Doing things live. Is that good? Threshold attack. Yeah, okay, that's back to where it was. So now there's probably some adjustments I'll be able to make, but I'll adjust for Podcast Studio. And we'll go from there. You just heard that breath. I just heard that breath. It's fine. Everybody needs to breathe. Okay, so this is what I get for doing stuff like right before I have to go live. Okay, so here's a really simple. Oh, right. Make like doesn't. I love Make, and like the way they zoom is terrible. So here's an example of an automation, um, a really simple automation. Watch database items, and then when something changes in that database item, create a new database item. So this is Notion to Notion. Maybe this isn't a great example, but it is really simple because inexplicably, Notion doesn't do this natively. So what I'm saying here is in my CRM, when a person in my CRM has a status that's changed to 1, which means I won the job or whatever, create a new database item in my like current client's database. And the reason that there are two separate databases here is because this one is for like project management and this one is my CRM. And you can't do that natively in Notion. Again, inexplicably. Like Notion's automations are real bad. Like real bad. I can't believe they shipped them like that bad. But anyway, this is a really simple automation. Another one that's maybe worth looking at where you're connecting two items is, let's do this one. Right, this is really good. So this is when somebody fills out a form on my website. I use a tool called Gravity Forms. Add them to Notion. The input is really clear here. The input is the information that was put into this form. The output or the actions are also very clear. Take this stuff that was input into the form and add it to Notion. So inputs and outputs are clear. This is a very simple automation where you're basically connecting two tools that wouldn't otherwise be connected. And you can sub out anything for this, right? So you could say like Tally Form or Google Form, and you can swap out Notion with Airtable or Google Sheets, or Trello, right? Like whatever tool you used can usually be connected here. So that's generally what I look for when I'm asking the 4 questions. Does a person need to do this? Like another way you can ask that is like, does this task require critical thinking or multiple steps? Like multiple, let's say, multiple steps where adjustment is needed. Because like a robot can't do that, right? A really good example of this is I could set up an automation for Streamline Solopreneur where when the item is published, automatically create a post on my WordPress site. That is something that is automatable, right? A person does not need to do that part. However, I want a number of things to happen with that blog post. I want the transcript to be put into an accordion so it's not like making a forever long page. I want the embed to be in a specific section next to my buttons for my calls to action. I want the sponsors' logos to be listed, and there's no place in Transistor for me to put sponsors and logos and links. So while that task could be automatable, there are some inputs that change. The inputs aren't clear and exactly the same every time. And so my VA does that because we have a process in place where she can find the sponsor logos and links, and she knows how to add them. She knows how to add the transcript to the right section. She knows which template in WordPress to use. So that's kind of the difference. When you're going through a task, maybe the best way to think about it is this. When you're going through a task, if there's a little hiccup, make a note of that hiccup, and that might have the potential to require a person to do it. Not always, as I'll show you in a minute, but it could. Okay. So let's look at what kind of tasks you should automate. Because this is another, like, what? Well, I don't even know it's possible. I could ask, does a person need to do it? And I don't really know the answer to that. So here are 4 types of tasks you can automate. Common, easily repeatable tasks. When someone fills out a form, add the information to Notion. Infrequent, high level of effort tasks. I would qualify booking guests for your podcast as this. Because, at least for me, right? Because for me, it's not just filling out a Calendly form. It's doing a bunch of things. And I'll show you that in a little bit as well. Specific timing required. So this is like someone becomes a member of your podcast and gets a private podcast feed. You don't want them to have to wait until you're at your computer to give them access to the private podcast feed. And then finally, can't forget. So this is something where it's a task that needs to happen at a specific time or based on a specific thing, and you might forget, right? So when I was giving a talk like this last week, someone said, like, copying and pasting is easy, and I'm not going to pay for a subscription to basically just copy and paste information into my app. So this is for something later. Switch back to this camera. They said, like, I'm not going to pay endless. They said they used the words endless subscriptions. And like, yeah, copying and pasting is easy, right? I could copy and paste someone's Calendly information into Notion myself. Or I could copy and paste a standard, hey, we're recording tomorrow, here's what you need to know email, and send it. But what if I forget to do those things? Then my schedule won't be complete. Then my guest won't get crucial information that they need. Why would I leave that up to chance when I have a tool that could send those emails out for me, right? Calendly and SavvyCal and Cal.com all have send an email 1 week before the event, 1 day before the event, 1 hour before the event. And you can set the timing. So yeah, like, maybe it's not worth it to pay to copy and paste, but it's worth it to never have to forget about it. And so that's the type of automation tasks that we're looking at. So some of my favorite automation tools. So if you go into this to that with this in mind, I need to update this graphic, but my favorite automation tools are Make, which we just saw. Alternative is Zapier. You connect lots of apps that way, right? So like, you have lots of apps that can be connected through Zapier and Make. I also use Shortcuts on my iPhone. This is mostly for information gathering. So like, I do a 3 Things in Podcasting episode every week, and I'm gathering stories from across the internet. I have a shortcut to copy the crucial information from that story and paste it into Obsidian so that I have like a little repository of stories I can pull from. Google Assistant and other on-device automation tools exist for Android. Airtable, I say Alt Notion. Notion is not good at automation. So like, there's no alternative. In my opinion, Notion is no longer an alternative for Airtable, right? But like, it is one for storing a bunch of data and sending information there. But Airtable's automations are incredible. They're the thing that I miss most about Airtable. And then scheduling, I use Cal.com now, but Calendly and SavvyCal, they all do the same thing. I use Cal.com because it's free and does everything that Calendly and SavvyCal do. And more. Their model is really interesting, but I like Calendly and SavvyCal. I have a question coming in here, I think. Maybe I'll be able to read it. Uh, maybe not. God, I like really can't stand LinkedIn for this sort of thing. I like, okay, so I see, can I go to this notification? Um, I'm also really sorry. I don't want to mispronounce your name. I think it's Tenu. Um, Tenu. Um, I am seeing, this is very frustrating. I'm seeing part of your comment. So let's see. Perhaps the most common automation. Nope, that wasn't a question. You just liked it. That was very dumb on my part. I'm sorry. No wonder I couldn't see it. There was nothing there. This notification just looked like a question. So sorry about that. And thanks for the like and for being here. I appreciate it. If you are joining in and you have questions or comments, feel free to leave them. It looks like most of you are watching on LinkedIn right now, so I will try to do my due diligence and check LinkedIn for questions and comments that come in. Okay, so we just walked through automation tools and the 4 questions. I want to tell you about the components of automation right now, and then I'll move on to like building one and how this works, right? So there are 4 components to automation. The first one is the trigger. Some event needs to kick off the entire automation. This could be someone fills out a form, someone visits a website, right? That could be a trigger. Someone sends you an email, someone books a time on your calendar. These are all triggers. Something happens, and that signals to your automation tool to do a bunch of stuff. The next component, number 2, is actions. So once an automation is triggered, one or more actions need to be performed. This could be copy the form information into Notion. It could be send an email, right? I had an automation for a while when I was trying to respond to like Haro, which is Helper Reporter Out, requests that whenever I got an email from Helper Reporter Out that had the word podcast or podcasting or podcaster in it, copy a link to that email into Google Sheets. And then I would check Google Sheets once every couple of days. So instead of having to sifting through all of the Haro requests that were coming in, I was just surfaced the ones that I felt were relevant to me. So that's an action. Copy a link to the email into Google Sheets, right? One or more actions. Condition, number 3. You can also check to see if certain conditions meet, if certain conditions are true to continue to those actions. So, maybe you only want to read emails from people named Jim, right? So the trigger is you get an email. The condition is if name contains Jim, then add it to spreadsheet or, send me a push notification about it or whatever. Right. There are a number of triggers. Again, I'll show you like one of my more complicated automations so that you can kind of see all of this in action. But you can also choose, and then number 4 is you can choose the timing of your automations. So you can choose them to run immediately or at specific intervals. For some, it doesn't need to run because the more you run, the higher your cost will be for some of these services, right? You're using a lot of resources. For my Helper Reporter Out automation, I knew I would get emails at, I think it was 6 a.m., noon, and 5 p.m. or something like that, or maybe it was 7 p.m. And so I would run the automation once at 7:30 p.m., right? And then it would, get the last 3, check to see if it had my keywords, and if it did, add them to the spreadsheet. So Those are the 4 components: trigger, actions, condition, timing. If we zoom out here, let's see, did I capture everything? I have some examples here, and then this is the an infographic for automating per task. If this is going to be up at podcastworkflows.com. So if you want to grab this graphic, you can. But I think the biggest part here is are the inputs and outputs clear? That's the main question you want to determine if you need to give it to a person or a computer. So let me open up Make again, and we can look through some of these things, and then I can also build out an automation for you. So I'll just check the comments and questions here really quick. I don't see any questions or comments coming in. So let me move on to the actual automation side of things. So let me do, where's cal.com? Here it is. This is one of my more complicated automations, right? So the trigger here is someone books with me through cal.com. This lightning bolt means that it happens immediately as data arrives. And so as soon as someone books with me, this automation kicks off. That's the trigger. The conditions, this is something called a router. So when there are multiple conditions, in Zapier, this is called paths. But when there are multiple conditions you want to take, you're going to need to basically tell Make or Zapier what to do if these conditions are met. And so if the name of the event contains streamlined solopreneur, I wanted to do one thing. And then my fallback, but I also have kind of these specific filters for this. Really, ultimately, I'd have a fallback with no conditions on it. But I don't necessarily want that, at least at this point. So the conditions are if the event contains the word discovery or 15, because I do a 15-minute discovery for people who fill out my coaching form, then do separate things. And so let's walk through this path first, the Streamline Solopreneur one. There's a number of things I want to happen here. One is create a Google Doc. This is going to be the show notes doc. It's based on the show notes template, and it fills the information out with the information from Calendly. So I can show you, let me bring that up here. So I can do show notes, and I just want to sanitize. Oh, that's not. Oh, is that right? Let's see. I'd like to sort by. Oh yeah, this is right. This is why is it in alphabetical order? Doesn't matter. Let me pick one. We'll do Justine. And I want to sanitize her email address. Because I don't like making other people's information public. Okay, so you can. So here's the kind of final result: email address, website. So this is legacy. I don't use that anymore, but all of this information is sent via the form, the cal.com form. And then we get into the summary and the top takeaways aren't, but all of this information, her links that she's included, her bio, the topic we're talking about, email address, and website. I could copy and paste that from cal.com into a document, but I'd have to remember to do that. And I'd have to do it for every guest that books with me. And it doesn't happen that often. I interview maybe 40 people per year, and that number is going down now. But why should I have to remember to do that? Which, copying and pasting it might take me 15 minutes per person, right? So 15 times 40 is what? That's 10 hours? Did I do that right? That's a whole work day. right? Or more. And that doesn't even include the fact that like it takes mental energy to like stop a task and start a task. And so why would I do? And that's only one part of this. So like when, once a day, I would maybe churn through, or once every couple of days, I would churn through the people I've booked with and then separately create a new Google document for each of them. And then that's only one part because I also have them added to the Notion database, which includes the Google Doc. And then I send an email to my task manager, which is Things, reminding me to do a post interview summary. So it sends the recording date and the guest, and then the due date is the recording date. So I know when I record with them, I want to do the summary that same day, so that's fresh in my mind and I can capture all the things quickly. So that is one route, right? Based on the condition event is called Streamline Solopreneur. The other route is a lot simpler. Someone fills out my discovery form. I want to add them to the Notion database. And so this is much simpler. It grabs the information from that form, it puts it in Notion, it marks them as a lead, and it marks them as they found me via my email list. Because if they fill out the form, they're marked set. Like if they fill out the form, that also just automatically goes to Notion. And so that's what this Calendly router looks like. So that has all the components, right? If we look at one that is okay, this is a good one, right? Because this is for when people want to apply. When people apply to be a guest for my podcast. This is watching Notion databases. This happens every 3 hours. To be honest, it could probably happen once a day. But it will look for database items in the guest application Notion database. And if they are accepted, send the accepted email. If they are rejected, send the rejected email. I could just send those emails, right? But then I'm copying and pasting. I'm looking for their email address. Here, I just move them into the accepted or rejected column in Notion. And everything else is taken care of for me. Because it's the same email, right? Hey, thanks so much, blah, 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 right? For the accepted email, it's like, hey, name, thanks so much for submitting to be a guest. Actually, and I need to, this is dumb. And never change this. I'd love to have you on. And then I do build a link based on the information that they filled out. So I missed this part. Thought I got everything. And then the rejection email looks similar, right? Hey, thanks so much. Unfortunately, I don't think you're a good fit for the show, blah, blah, blah. Here are some reasons why. Yeah, and this is pretty candid. I'm just like, hey, you probably pitched me a founder story, even though I explicitly say I don't do founder stories. Okay, let's build an automation. Anybody watching here? Who's here? Couple people. Great. So I'm going to create a new scenario. Let's do... oh, wow. OpenAI. Sure. This is I should have thought of this ahead of time, right? Okay, why don't we... This is good. Watch for when a new document is created. That's really good. In the folder coaching. Great. Okay, so first of all, I've already connected my Gmail account. You'll get, when you sign up, you'll get instructions for how to connect to your Gmail account. This is one place where Zapier is better than Make. I think Zapier probably has a deal with Make.com. I'm sorry, with Google. I think Zapier probably has a deal with Google to make life easier. Uh, or they just kind of, or maybe the worst scenario is they just kind of like skirt the security things, but I don't think Google lets them do that. So anyway, you'll connect. They give you clear instructions on how to do that. Okay, so when a document is added to the coaching form, let's add it to a Google Sheet, maybe. I guess the other thing that like you would maybe do is create a tweet, right? Like maybe you have the text of a tweet in here. Let's do that. That's stupid. And like doesn't require real information. So yeah, so actually here's what I'll do. Drive.google.com. I will create a folder called tweets. New folder. Tweets. Cool. All right, so now we'll go back here. I'll change the document. It's going to pull the fresh list, and there's tweets. So when I add a document to Google Sheets or Google Docs, this could also be a Google Sheet, right? Like maybe that's better. Well, let's see. Probably if I show advanced text media quote post. Yeah, so it's not like I can schedule this here. This is going to happen immediately, right? So maybe I grab, let's see, document ID, thumbnail, capabilities. Where's the content? Export links. Did I miss it? Link. Document ID, name. Parents, spaces. Owners. Owned by me, capabilities. Okay, let's actually create one. All right, so we'll create a new doc. This is like such an academic example. Hello. This is an automated tweet from my live stream. And then I guess my YouTube link. How about that? Okay, so we've got that. So if we go back to make, and I just run this module only, it will grab this information. Found it. I mean, did it find it? Let's see. Owners, permissions. Okay, so then if I go over here, now I should have like real information here. This is crazy. It doesn't get the content. This is all falling apart. This can't be right. That's all right. I'll change it. This is part of automation, right? Like some of you are probably thinking now, if Joe doesn't even know this stuff, like if Joe's not making it look easy, how can I possibly do it? It's a lot of trial and error. I honestly, I bet there's, let's see. I'll put it here. Can I do that? Let's delete this module. Put that there. I bet there's a way. Yeah, get content of document. That's dumb. By mapping, document ID. Okay. So that's a two-stepper. I didn't anticipate that. That's okay. And then create post. The post is going to be the content. Like all of how about all of the content? Title revision, suggested view, text content. There we go. So now if I run this once, I might have to create a new one. Yeah, because it didn't. Okay, so it didn't find that. It didn't find that again. It'll only find a document once. This is another drawback, I think, of Make, where like I think Zapier's a little bit better about this. You can really only like test a thing once, which is silly. And I'm going to add an extra exclamation point here so that it runs properly, so that like we know. Hello with 2 exclamation points means it worked. Okay, so we'll run this again. Okay, now we'll go over to Twitter /X. Hello, this is an automated tweet from my live stream. Great, so we've built an automation. It frankly didn't go as smoothly as I would have liked, but it is a lot of trial and error, right? And so what I would recommend you do is kind of explore. Also, Zapier has pretty good AI. I haven't tested Makes, but Zapier, build me a scenario that looks at a Google Sheet and schedules a LinkedIn post for a specified time. Let's see if it can do this. I'm testing this live. Preparing the blueprint. This is taking a while. Okay. It modified the one I was looking at. That's crazy. Watch new rows. This is dumb. I mean, I guess I was in this, and so I asked it, but it did put these 2 things together for me with the right action. And then, okay, so I got to connect my account. Okay, that was super weird. Waiting for authorization. Do I actually need all this? Man, this is not having. Oh, there we go. Okay. I don't know what I did before. Yes, this is what you want. That was unclear as well. I'm really glad that this is going as well as I thought it would. Content media type, visibility, reshareable. So it looks like, oh, mentions. That's cool. It looks like there is no scheduling available. So like I wouldn't be able to do that. But this would allow me to create a LinkedIn post based on a Google Sheet that I'm looking at. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it's easy and you can just do it really quick. It is a learned skill. I think that some tools are more user friendly than others. I think Zapier is more user friendly than Make, if I'm being honest with you. And Zapier does have a nice a lower priced plan now. When I left Zapier, my plan was like $75 a month, and my Make plan is $10 a month. And so like I get like pay for the tools worth paying for, but also I had like I had two tools that could do the same thing, and one is 90% cheaper. So that's something to consider. Now I will say, like, I do help people with this, and if you want help building automations, definitely reach out. I think, I don't have that lower third prepared, but sign up for my mailing list at podcastworkflows.com/join. I talk about this. I'm going to be talking about automations more, I think, because I get a lot of questions about it. And I feel like this is a place where I can more or less differentiate my content from the content of lots of the great like people who are podcasting out there and giving really good advice. So, that's it for this live stream. Thanks so much for watching. I will not be here next week because I'll be on vacation, but I'll be back the following week. Until then, have a great end of July, and I'll see you in August.